Hi, and welcome to Lesson 5-2. Our topic today is bank reconciliation. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be comparing side by side the information that comes from the bank account from our business and the information that we have on hand, our records, which indicate what our current status is on our bank account. So you have your bank's records, you have your records. And by the end of the process, you will have balanced the checkbook, or in other words, your information would then match the bank's information. So to do that, you would need to have a copy of your bank statement in front of you. And the bank statement has all sorts of information. It usually is printed about once a month. It lists any deposits that were made during the month from the business, as well as any withdrawals that were made. Looking at the bank statement in front of you, you can see that we have an ending balance of the month at $5,304. That is after numerous deposits. There was one withdrawal. And we also have a service charge at the end of the month at the very bottom of $8. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that information and plug it into what's called a reconciliation of a bank statement. To do that, you'll need to have your own records as well as the bank's records. The left side of the screen would indicate any information that we see listed in a bank statement that would not be listed on our check stubs. And the information on the right is information that we do have listed on our check stubs but does not appear on the bank statement. So to fill this out, you usually start left and work your way to the right. And on the left, we have our balance of a check stub. We have a service charge of $8. So you take that balance of your check stub, which in this case was $4,972. You subtract the service charge of $8, and you'll see that at the end of the month, your balance is a little bit smaller than what we thought it was. We went from $4,972 down to $4,964 because we were not aware of the bank service charge until we had received our statement. We look at the right side of the statement, and it asks for the balance on our bank statement. And when we look at our bank statement, we can see that it had a balance of $5,304. So we include that balance on the top of our column. We then list any outstanding deposits. These are deposits that we have made since the bank statement was printed. And that statement was printed on August the 30th, so therefore a deposit on August 31st would not have shown up on that bank statement. So we'd have to list that one deposit of $190, including any other deposits you might have, but in this example we only have one. And then it says to total outstanding deposits, and we only have that one deposit of $190, so that is our total outstanding deposits. We go beneath that to our subtotal. A subtotal is telling you to stop where you're at and add up everything you have so far. So we add up our balance on our bank statement plus our one outstanding deposit. We now have a subtotal of $5,494. Down below, we now have an area for our outstanding checks. These are checks that have been written by us but do not yet appear on the bank statement. So according to our bank statement, the last check that was listed on the bottom was check 11. So check 12 and 13 do not appear in the bank statement. So we'd have to list it on our reconciliation form. We have two checks, one for $30, one for $500. Those are listed in chronological order based on the check number. And then we have total outstanding checks. That just is asking you to add up the only outstanding checks that you have, add them together. In this case, we get 530. Beneath that, it says adjusted bank balance. What you would do is take your subtotal, which in this case, $5,494, subtract your outstanding checks of $530, and now that gives you an adjusted bank balance of $4,964. What you'll notice is that the balance on the left side of our form, which is $4,964, matches the balance on the right side of the form. So our check stub balance is now in agreement. It's balanced now with the balance on our bank statement. And that is exactly what you want to have happen at the end of the month. So notice on the top of the statement we had our check stub ending balance of $4,972. Also notice the service charge of $8. We now have to take that information, update our records. So we need to update our check stub, and we also have to go ahead and update our general journal with the service charge that we now have. So what I'm going to ask you to do is look at the work together that you have in your textbook, and the directions for the work together are on page 128. This is all the information that we will need to complete our bank statement reconciliation form. And in the directions, it says, on July 29th of the current year, Deep Clean received a bank statement dated July 28th. The following information is obtained from the bank statement and from the records of the business. We have our bank statement balance, service charges, outstanding deposits, outstanding checks, the checkbook balance. So direction number 1 is asking us to prepare a bank statement reconciliation using July 29th of the current year as the date. So look in the upper right-hand corner of the statement, reconciliation statement. We will now put the date of July 29th of the current year. We now work our way to the left. It asks, what is the balance on the check stub number 106? In our textbook on the directions, it does say the balance on the checkbook stub number 106 is $1,575. Deduct any bank charges. In the directions, it does say we have a bank service charge of $2. So you will write service charge in the amount of $2. Beneath that, it asks for the total bank charges. So all we have is that one charge of $2. We don't have any additional charges. Sometimes you will. Below that, it says adjusted check stub balance. To calculate that, we take our check stub balance on the top of the column, which is $1,575. We subtract our service charge of $2, so now our balance has dropped to $1,573. On the right side, we have our balance on the bank statement. In the directions, it says bank statement balance $1,528. So we'll list that on the top column. Then it asks us to add any outstanding deposits. According to our book, we do have one outstanding deposit of $150 on July 28th. Total all outstanding deposits. So take your one deposit on July 28th of $150. If we had more, we would have added more than one together, but we didn't. Then our subtotal tells us to stop where we're at, add up everything we have so far. So you take the balance on your bank statement, which is $1,528. You will add your outstanding deposit of $150. That now brings us up to $1,678. You go below, deduct any outstanding checks. So we have two outstanding checks, check number 103 and check number 105. Make sure you list those chronological. Check 103 is $70, check 105 is $35. So below that, total outstanding checks. Well, 70 plus 35 is $105. We now will take our subtotal, which is $1,678. We will subtract or deduct the $105 of outstanding checks, and that brings our ending balance to $1,573. So now take a look. Does the left column equal the right column? And they do. Our adjusted check stub balance equals the balance on our adjusted bank balance. So we have now balanced our checkbook and everything is accounted for. So we now have to update our records after we've balanced our check stub, after we've balanced our checkbook. And to do that, we now have to go to our check stub, update it. If any deposit had been made, we would include that. But also, if any service charges were listed on the reconciliation form, we need to include those service charges on the latest check stub. So in this example, there was that service charge of $8. So you can see in the other section, they listed as service charge $8. Below that would be kind of like your totaling of any service charges listed. We had that one service charge of $8. So when you take your subtotal, which was $4,972, subtract, because charges would take money out of your account. They don't add money. So you would take $4,972, subtract $8, and that gives you a new subtotal of $4,964. So now looking at our work together in the textbook, we now see that it says to record the service charge on check stub number 106. So the service charge that we had in the work together was $2. Our balance brought forward, we had to go back. You can see in the upper left column our balance on the check stub for 106 is $1,575. Okay, so if I go ahead, balance brought forward, that's where the $1,575 will go. Subtotal. No deposits were made, so our subtotal is the same number repeated, $1,575. We did have, however, we had a service charge of $2. So we'll list the service charge of $2, total that up, which is just $2 since there was only one. And now our subtotal we're going to subtract. So take $1,575 from the subtotal, subtract $2, we now have a subtotal of $1,573. Next, it's asking us to record the service charge on the journal using memorandum number 44 as a source document. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to update our general journal below. It's still July 29th as our date. We're going to use the account title because we never had an account title called service charge. So instead, we're going to use the account title called miscellaneous expense. Anytime you have to deal with anything that does not have an account title, it's a usually safe bet that miscellaneous expense will be used. And we know expenses are always debits. So we're going to debit our miscellaneous expense by $2. On the credit line below, that money will be coming out of our cash account for the business. So we will list cash, and our cash is decreasing as a credit in order to pay for that miscellaneous expense. We have to pay for it, and the only cash we have would be in our cash account. And according to the directions, this is based on memo number 44, and we always would list our source document last. So that is how you update your general journal based on any service charges that you might have had in your reconciliation statements.